are in listen-only mode.
Morning everybody, and welcome to our webinar today on our traineeship offer. This is following on from our business administration webinar that we held last month. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So we will have time at the end today for questions. So if you do want to pop any questions in the question section, and then we will answer as many as we can during today's webinar, and any we don't have time for, we will send out a document with the questions and answers in with the recording of the webinar today. Today's webinar is run by myself, Janice Collins, City and Guilds Partnership Manager, and my colleague Mandy Slaney, Lead Industry Manager, who will take you through some of our examples of the programmes that we've put together. And Bryony, Kingsland, our Funding and Policy Manager, will be joining us towards the end of the presentation for our question and answer section. Today's presentation will go through some recap of traineeships and some of the changes that are coming in during September. We'll talk you through some of our responses at City and Guilds to those changes and the components of a traineeship. We've put together an example of one of the many sector-specific areas that we've put together. So we're going to cover our hospitality and catering offer in detail. To support with our offer, we have got some of our products going into a digital offer, and we will touch briefly on that today as well. We'll talk about the next steps and what you would need to do to work with City and Guilds on the programmes that we're discussing, and then we'll have time for question and answers. So we'll hopefully keep the webinar today to the duration of an hour. So, high quality apprenticeships for young people. Obviously, the government has heavily invested due to COVID in traineeships, and this obviously they've made some changes to the programmes over the coming months. The bonus of that £1,000 for employees is that big area to help with this. And obviously the idea of this is to help improve the positive destinations for traineeships than where they have been previously. 75% of learners do end up generally into a positive destination, as quoted by the Department of Education last week during their presentation, which was quite an interesting presentation for those that attended. If not, I'd recommend that you do get a copy of that to help with your delivery. There is more flexibility in terms of the eligibility. They can obviously have had a level 3 previously, so it's a great opportunity for centres to take advantage of these changes. So what is a traineeship? For those of you that maybe have not run a traineeship before and are really just starting to enter the market and look at whether these are programmes that would benefit your learners, they are a programme which is a minimum of 6 weeks duration and a maximum of 12 months. Previously this was 6 months, but that is one of the changes the government have made. It's for young people that have little or no work experience. It's to help improve their skills and let them understand maybe what opportunities are available to them, because they can look at opportunities in more than one area. So if they, for example, they thought they wanted to go into hospitality but were not quite sure whether it was a chef or they wanted to be out front of house, they could obviously now have the opportunity to try both of those areas and decide what they wanted to do. It helped them obviously get some basic skills and experience. Traineeships are for 16 to 18-year-olds or 19 to 24-year-olds, but they are funded through separate funding streams. The content of the traineeship has the core programme, work experience and optional vocational elements, which we'll discuss in further detail throughout this presentation. So a traineeship model, for example, we'll be looking at the core content, which will be a focused period of work preparation. It can include qualifications, employability skills, and that could be a a qualification as well, or units of a qualification. It should be tailored towards the individual requirements, so it could be that different learners do slightly different programmes. And English and maths, if that is required, that could be a stepping stone qualifications, or it could be a full functional skills, or the start of that functional skill. They may continue that on into their next programme, and depending obviously on what support they need and what the initial assessment is for those learners. You would have a work experience as part of that programme. And that programme of work experience could be with different employers. It doesn't have to be with one employer. Under the new guidance that's coming out for September, so that's really good for the learner. And I think that, the changes that have been made, personally, I think it does help the learner in terms of giving them that stepping stone to know exactly what they would like to do. The work placement does need to be during COVID, has been reduced to 70 hours as a minimum, but that obviously will be flexible in terms of what you are working with the employer on. And then you've got that vocational option as well, which I think during this time is quite critical, because the traineeships that we're seeing moving forward, it is about giving the learners the right skills, and obviously that vocational support and qualification is important as part of that development for the individual, and it could be that they would look at IT qualifications as well. It is really about tailoring the programme to the individual needs of the learner. I think this is quite an interesting table, which I won't obviously go through the full extent, but I think it just highlights for you the changes from the current programme to the reformed programme from September. Obviously the eligibility in terms of the qualified up to level 3, they can now duration is a year, so that obviously will help with some of the industries that maybe the qualifications a little bit longer, so potentially maybe engineering for an example, or motor vehicle, where you can do that larger qualification, which will help people get into those sectors. There is the strong vocational requirement, so that will be obviously key when you're putting in your bids for the tendering process of how you're going to deliver that programme and how you're going to include it and make sure it's a good quality programme. That is something that obviously will be looked at very, very closely, and also the employer incentive obviously is a big change, up to 10 trainees. As part of our changes and our response to the changes, we are in the process of updating our website, and we will have delivery models available on the website very shortly, and we'll have a widget for each sector area. So this is just really just a pointer for yourselves in terms of to have a look at our website as you're planning your traineeship. There is a link to the traineeship website at the end of the presentation, which you will be able to use. In terms of delivery model, so I think maybe quite a few people might have attended our recent webinar last month on our business skills, which we've had some really good feedback from our customers on, and we've had a number of centres ask for similar delivery models for different sectors. So on the back of the requests from customers, we've put together a number of sector models. We've got construction and the built environment, health, hair and beauty, healthcare, hospitality and catering, teaching and learning, transport. We're in the process, because of customer demand, in developing engineering and leadership skills, and also new hot off the press for another example is digital skills as well. So we've got a Pacific Digital offer as well, which is ready to launch. And for each of these, we will have a pack with all the qualifications that would be applicable to that area, which is being put together by our technical experts and our industry specialists for each area. Each delivery model does include English and maths, employability and digital skills, because we see those as being very important and at the request of our customers. And also if there are any sectors that are not listed, but obviously you've got demand for those and you want to work with us in terms of understanding what qualifications we have to support those sectors, we have got a poll question at the end of the webinar, which you'll be able to obviously add any sectors that you also would like any support with, and you can also speak to our digital and direct sales team as well to get support with those sectors, because we want to work with yourselves as customers and give you the right support to help you get the right programs for your learners. I'm now going to hand over to Mandy, who's going to take you through our example of our hospitality sector.
Thank you, Janice. Good morning, everyone. As Janice mentioned, we've had previous webinars and we've very much focused on the business skills. So today we want to just give you really the highlights of another example delivery model, which is around hospitality and catering. Next slide, Janice, please. So what we've done for hospitality and catering, because we're aware obviously different types of employer organisations, but also such a variety and breadth of job roles, what our expert teams have actually created is a variety of different delivery models, which has been more tailored to each of them roles really, and specific industry organisations. So as you can see, we've got the trainee chef as one of the examples, food and beverage is another. All the core elements we've kept the same, so we're just given different options of sizes. So we've got the work placement section, which is a profile of achievement. Again, that's optional, but what it does is not a qualification, it's really a framework. So it really helps you to be able to do the initial planning with the learner, identify the skills and knowledge they're going to require, and really have a plan from day one. Then we follow on to the employability, and again what we've done is put different sizes in there. Now I will go through some of the units that have been highlighted by included and the skills that need to. Then we've got the maths and English, which again I'll go through in a little bit more detail further on. But as you can see, again, we've got lots of different varieties of sizes, assessment methods. So you can really, whether it's a bite-sized qualification or, a full functional skill, the options are there for you. Then we have the digital skills, which if you have the traineeship program, go in and pick the units that be most appropriate. So we're just giving some, examples and really signposts as to where you can find them. What we're also developing is like an infographic around each sector area to sort of say around digital skills and what that might look like. So in hospitality, it might be around, managing bookings, or it might be creating a menu. So we'll really look at the types of where that, where them digital skills would really enhance that, the learner program, but also make them more employable. Then we come on to the vocational tasters, which in the hospitality and catering sector, we have a vast breadth of offer really, with lots of different sizes. So these are just a couple of examples where, whether they're small qualifications you'd like to bolt on, or more sort of sector specific, more role specific really. So like the introduction to culinary skills, hospitality and catering principles. So such a variety. If we go on to the next example, Janice, please. You'll see we've also done a similar example for bar service and hospitality, and one that I wanted to really sort of home in on really, which is a sort of a multi-skills really, is if you look at the hospitality, on the vocational taster, the introduction to the hospitality industry. Now that is such a flexible qualification because that gives lots of different options across lots of different organisations. And particularly if it was a hotel where you might have a learner that might work around and like carousel around the different departments, that would be ideal because there's lots of different units in there. So there's like an introduction to the industry, hospitality industry, customer service, there's basic food and prep, but there's also front operation, office operations, so they're on the front desk, and housekeeping and guest services. but also in there's actually applying for jobs and courses. So there's a real mixture in there, and also it's a nice size as well, that's not too big. So certainly that would be one that we would recommend that you sort of look at, particularly if the learner may move employers. And that's certainly something that we know they can do now from September. So that might be something that will be transferable across different employers. The next slide, please, Janice. So this example here, this is a leadership skills traineeship program, and really I've added this one in because there are a lot of, particularly in the vocational tasters, qualifications where they may actually be able to be adapted across different areas, but also, for instance, there's the actual level 2 award for young leaders. That's a really nice qualification, which really covers, this could actually sort of cover the sort of employability and sort of interpersonal skills development as well, because there's things in there like developing resilience by coping positively with setbacks and challenges. And that, that could be a key unit that really could work across all different programs, not just a leadership traineeship. And also you've got the, if you're looking for the larger qualifications as well, you've got the leadership and team skills, which again, that's got some really nice units in there, like workplace communication, managing yourself, meeting customer needs, solving problems. And they're all the types of behaviours and skills that employers are really looking for them to develop. But also, as we know, a lot of the SACE closures were implemented at the end of July. Business was one, and also the level 2 team leader. We know there's a gap, and we need something that's going to create a stepping stone program to help and enable learners to actually progress, whether it's in employment, but more so to the level 3 leadership and the level 3 business administration apprenticeship standards. And we know that there's a lot of skills needed. So this is where some of the units, you could actually create a stepping stone program to enable learners to progress on to these higher level apprenticeship programs. Next slide. So what we've done on each of the delivery models, we've also given you examples, and this is just an example of how the funding's formulated. So hopefully you can then look at your program once you've created and sort of picked all the units or qualifications you would like, creating a bespoke program that's going to work for you, but also work for the employers and be really bespoke. Then you can actually look at the different funding that you would receive, depending on obviously the age of the learner and which funding pots really that you would be drawing from. So they're just examples, and they are in all of the example delivery models. And then this is also in each of the delivery models. What we've tried to do is extract the list of qualifications, and as you can see, in particular for hospitality and catering, there's a vast range of qualifications, all different sizes. So on our website, Bryony has created really like a funding table, a course grid, and where you can actually filter by sector area, by size. You can really, look at the types of qualifications that you would like to offer and create your own program. So again, once these examples will be in each of the delivery models. But what we'd say is, obviously, this is only a snapshot of some of the qualifications in hospitality and catering. So what we'd recommend is that you actually go onto the website and have a look at the full range so that you can actually see the full breadth of the offer. Then the next slide, Janice. Sorry, seem to have a little delay, but hey. I think one of the key things as well we wanted to make sure you're aware of is actually all the centres registered with ILM and have access, and the learners have access to the Institute of Leadership and Management. So the learners will actually get membership, and I think that's a key benefit to actually delivering the leadership and management qualifications, with some fantastic resources available on there. Next slide. So this is just really a table and a snapshot of the Maths and English breadth of offer, really. What we've tried to do is just give them in different ages and also just a mixture. What we would recommend is on the next slide, I've actually put Maths and English website link. There you can find all the information, but lots of resources to support your delivery around the Maths and English. And as we've said once before, you know, there is such a breadth really of different sizes and assessment method levels, so you can really create your own bespoke traineeship programs. And the next slide just really gives you the link more than anything to where you can find everything. But I would recommend that you do go on to the Maths and English website if you've not been on before, because the resources basically they're added to and enhanced on a regular basis, so make sure that you sort of link into the latest resources there. The next slide we're going to talk about, I think from memory, it's employability. And again, what we're just trying to do is, you know, we've got lots and lots of different units for employability, lots of sizes, so we'd really, you know, have a look at the full suite. What we've tried to do in the delivery model examples is put a variety of sizes, because we're aware that, you know, there may be some learners that you're working with that have already done, you know, completed employability skills, units and qualifications. So it's really just looking at different options really. One of the things what we're trying to do is on this example is we held some workshops with employers and providers, and these were some of the key sort of units and skills and behaviours that particular employers but also providers have highlighted. So things like managing time in the workplace, you know, they need the, you know, the trainees to turn up on time, you know, be reliable, managing themselves, and also around customers and work, you know, actually being in the workplace. All them sorts of skills are all, you know, quite new for quite a lot of them. Or it may be that learners are actually changing the direction, you know, to another vocational areas. So, you know, this could all be new for them. But also working in teams and career planning, you know, making sure that you know, they do have success when they're applying for jobs and preparing for interviews. But they really are just a snapshot of some of the units that are in there. Next slide. Also, we're actually delighted to showcase this really. We're also in the process of developing a bank, well, these will come in waves really, of short courses and an actual platform. I have got a list, and the list will be updated on a regular basis, but really this will enable you to, you know, to actually have a blended learning program, particularly at the moment, you know, with all the current situations. So please, you know, we will do an update and we will be doing separate webinars on this, but we just really wanted to highlight, you know, that it is due in a lot of areas, will due out in September. So the next slide just shows a list of the actual qualifications that are actually coming soon, and sorry it's gone, the list has gone. But basically on that, the qualifications that are in the first wave, customer service, business admin, there's some leadership and management, employability skills, but again, once again, we would be really contacting providers, employers and learners, and to really establish what is needed next, you know, what are the areas, whether it's the delivery models for the traineeships or the actual short courses. And I'm now going to hand back over to Janice.
Thank you very much, Mandy. So now I just obviously want to reiterate that what we've shown today is our hospitality offer, and we will have the same offer available in obviously the number of sectors, and we will be when we send out the slide deck, we will send out those the slides that we have that work for the other sectors, but we just felt obviously we didn't want to overload everyone today with lots of slides for different sectors, because I know some people look after traineeships, look after all areas of traineeships, and some specialise in particular sector areas. So we wanted to really just give another example other than the business admin today, but we will follow that with the rest of them during this week and as soon as the website is available with the updates as well, we'll obviously get those links out to you as well. So what are the next steps? So if you decided to work with City and Guilds, this is obviously what we're trying to work with our centres, like we did during COVID, and we offered a number of free resources to centres to support them. We're looking to support our centres further during this traineeship launch for our centres. So the vocational qualification for the sector would have the normal approval fee of £200. The other elements that you would maybe built on to your programme, we're actually offering with free approval. So if you, for example, you were looking to now work with City and Guilds on English and Maths, with an employability qualification, an IT user course, and potentially offer the Young Leaders Award, which is an ILM qualification, you would actually save £900 on your approval fees. All of the bolt-on approvals will actually be remotely completed because they're low risk qualifications, and the main qualification approval we will also, wherever possible, complete that remotely as well to support the centres and obviously support our own teams, obviously trying not to move around the country too much currently. Okay. So obviously for those centres that already work with ourselves, you would complete your qualification approval form within Walled Garden, and if you had any further support needed, obviously speak to your account manager and direct sales team, and we would aim to complete those approvals within 30 working days, because we know that obviously centres are keen to get ready for this delivery and to maximise the opportunities for yourselves. If you are a new customer, please contact our direct sales team either by telephone or by email, and they will be they're there to support you, and we'll get you in touch with one of our team that are dedicated to working with our traineeship centres. But if there is any programmes that you would like and you haven't, you don't think we're going to be delivering, then please get in touch with us, because we really do want to work with you and your learners and giving them the best programme and success through this traineeship journey. I've had it in here, just some useful links, just thought they're all in one place. It was quite good for yourself. So we've got linked to our website, obviously the ESFA funding for traineeships, and obviously we're all expecting sort of more detailed guidance to come out in terms of the funding rules over the next month. So obviously that should hope to be on that link there, and then obviously our own qualification funding as well. So the qualifications that we've included as part of the traineeship programme. So that concludes obviously our information given to yourselves, and obviously we'll just give you a couple of minutes just to type any questions you may have into the question box, and then we'll take you through and answer the questions that we've got.
Janice?
Yes.
It's Bryony.
Hi, Brownie.
It's just to update everybody. I was on a webinar with the ESFA and Department for Education last week, and they were talking about the 111 million extra funding for traineeships, for the 30,000 extra traineeships this year. And what they were saying is they are expecting to procure for that funding, but it's not going to happen in the next 2 weeks. I think a lot of people worried that they might have to come back off holiday, myself included, and potentially start writing a bid to access some of that 111 million funding. But the indications from the Department for Education is they won't be doing that until towards the end of August. It will come out in the next couple of weeks, but not this week. Highly unlikely it'll come out early next week. It'll probably be late next week or very early the week after. And they expect to start delivery on the extra 111 million probably in the second half of the autumn term. So we're looking towards the back end of October.
That's very useful information, Bryony. Thank you so much for that. Right, so if we start going through the questions that we've got, so the first question is, will we get a copy of the presentation sent to us after the presentation? Yes, absolutely. Chloe, thank you for that question. We will be sending out a copy of the presentation and obviously links to our website and all the different sector examples, and not just obviously what we've included in today's session. I've had a comment in from Debbie around the Young Leader Award is really good to teach resilience to young people, and it's good, and they've found that useful to use that qualification. So thank you for that comment, Debbie. Will there be a pathway for childcare in addition to the health and care? Mandy, would you be able to answer that question, please?
Yeah, I can, and yes, there is one. There is one that will be up on the website. Maybe what we might do is separate it, because I think it's quite a good point. We've actually put them all together under the sort of health and childcare umbrella. But what we might do is, like on hospitality, but also on hair and beauty, we've separated them. So there's hairdressing option and a beauty option. So yes, absolutely, there is one. And also, I think there's another question around, is there a delivery model for construction? Yes, there is. And we also have one for BSc as well.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a question that, what is the shortest delivery model in guided learning hours? That would obviously, I think for that question, I think it would depend obviously on the sector. Do you mean in hospitality or a different sector? Because obviously they will vary depending on the different sectors. But have we got an idea of a minimum hours? So team leading. So what would do we?
I think what you'd have to look at is the duration that you are planning for the learner for the traineeship, which has to obviously be agreed at the beginning. So depending, obviously, they can go from 6 weeks, 12 months. However, I know certainly on the SFA webinar last week, they were, sort of not anticipating many more than 6 months, unless it was, that trainee needed that in order to get them into employment or other reasons. So I think what you need to do is look at how long linked with the employer, expecting that traineeship, and what is your plan for that, and then look at the hours, because obviously you've got all the components that you'd have to cover in that time frame, but also the minimum placement hours, which
minimum
would have
to 70, maximum of 240. So you have to make sure you've got a minimum of 70 hours placement, which is approximately 35 hours on 2 weeks, and a maximum of 240 hours work placement. And then the rest of the traineeship can fit in around that work placement, dependent on what the employer wants and what the learner needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And someone says, will you be developing an essential digital skills qualification?
And come back to you on that one. We are developing some additional qualifications in that space, but we'd have to confirm which ones they are.
If that helps. We are working on a digital skills qualification at the moment, essential digital skills qualification at the moment. But before we go ahead and produce anything, we wanted to make sure that we had liaised and worked on it with the employers and the providers that are linked into that aspect of our product line. So there's some research being carried out with our providers that we work with. If anyone's interested in getting involved in that, do let us know, because we can let our IM leads, David Wackett, know about that. But we're researching with providers and also with employers to make sure any content that we produce and what we do produce for digital skills works for them, as well as obviously meets the qual regulatory requirements. So we think that we should have an offer there probably by spring 2021.
Excellent, thank you, Bryony. I think that concludes the questions that we've had so far. So obviously we will send out the slides. We have got some poll questions at the end of the presentation just to understand from yourselves in terms of what type of offer you're looking at delivering and how quickly, so we can make sure obviously our teams are geared up to support you with your delivery. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with any of the team if you've got any queries, so that be your account manager or the digital support team, because Sam and his team are there really to support you get your delivery as you want it to be. Mandy and Bryony, have you got anything to add before we give people some time back in their diaries?
I think the only thing I wanted to mention is, sorry, go on, Brownie.
Just one more thing, that once the ESFA Department for Education published the details of the tender or the procurement process that they're going to go through, we will run another policy and funding based traineeship webinar just to take people through anything that we think is important within that procurement process and exercise, so that everyone's up to speed. So I'm expecting that to be needed sometime in the next couple of weeks, so do watch out for social media, and also anybody that's attended this webinar, will make sure that you get an invite, because we'll send the invitations out to lists of people that have attended traineeship webinars previously. So watch out for that, because we will cover the procurement and what the requirements are for that once it's published, which we hope will be in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Great. And Mandy?
That's it for me, Mandy.
Thank you. I think there's just the last thing from me really, and it's a question that we are seeking feedback really on, is whether there would be demand for a digital credential for a traineeship, which is certainly something that we are exploring internally at Sitting Guilds. But if you've got any feedback on that, we'd really welcome feedback, thoughts or follow-on calls. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And just to mention, I know that the Health and Beauty team are planning a webinar next week. So if you are interested specifically in health and beauty, please look out for that invite coming your way. And our other technical advisors are planning to include traineeships within their autumn webinars. So if you were not signed up to our email alerts on our website, please make sure you sign up to that, because that's obviously where you get lots of information on the support that is available. Other than that, thank you for your time today. Good luck with your programmes, and we're here to help when you need any support.
Just one thing, Janice, I've had a few questions previously about where to find the email updates. If you go to our website, scroll right to the bottom of the page, and it is right at the bottom of any of the pages, you'll see email updates. And when you click on that, it takes you to a preference center, and you can sign up for the types of email information you want to receive. So it'll ask for your details, then it'll give you a drop down list of areas of preference. So whether that would be funding, which is my area, or the traineeships, or particular types of qualification or sector subject area, you can choose which email updates you get. You don't have to go for everything. But yes, it's right at the bottom of the page, everybody. And it does say email updates, but you won't find it easily in any of the widgets.
Good day, everybody.